Welcome to the Polite Society podcast. This is our recording on YouTube for episode 251. I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, ABN Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, and the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. We also have a new sponsor, Firearms Safety Institute. John, I'm going to go ahead and we'll just have to let you know you have to draw the line somewhere, and no more gun news is coming into our podcast. I've shut off the news feeds for me.
Okay, you're showing up now on YouTube.
Okay. Shall we read the intro?
Sure, let's go ahead.
I didn't realize that was quite a rhetorical question. Hi, I'd like to read the intro now. Give 5 seconds and we'll start. Welcome to the Polite Society podcast, recorded live on Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. I'm Rob Morse.
I'm John Richardson, and on today's show we have an interview with Russell Smith of the Armored Porcupine.
We also have our usual news and DGUs. So, climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 251 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now.
John, it appears you're not hearing me for at least 5 seconds after I speak.
I'm not. Yeah, there's like a lag.
Wow. We can't do the show this way. Let's you and I do a number.
Cut off YouTube and see if that makes a change different.
Oh yeah, you want to drop both of your both of those feeds?
I'm doing that on a different. Yeah, I'm gonna. Let's just drop that. Okay, let's try it again.
And I'm going to turn off my camera. You do the same with yours. On the settings, just click the camera.
Where would that be? Oh, turn camera off. Got it.
Okay, and let's go back and forth. Count.
I'm the blue man.
Yeah, me too. So let's go back and forth and count back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, and see how long see the lag. 1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6, 8.
That sounds really jerky, doesn't it? It's like a 2-second lag.
Yeah, and I'm not getting why we're getting any lag.
I don't know, but there is a ton of it.
Let me just check my internet a second.
Oh, wait, is there something over here for adjust bandwidth usage? I'm going to turn it down a little bit and see if it's faster. Okay, shall we try it again?
Yeah, I'm getting 50 megabits download. And
do you have a setting?
4 megabits upline.
Do you have a setting just to the right of the computer icon that says adjust bandwidth usage?
Just to the right.
Between the camera and the little gear that is settings?
Yes.
Try moving it all the way to the right.
From all the way on the right?
Yeah, I had mine set back 1 notch.
Medium?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, now that maybe I was doing a virus scan. I don't know. Shall we try again? One,
Sure. 2,
3,
4,
5.
6.
Well, it's better. Okay, we're gonna have to do it kind of blind and with no video, but it's that, or we'd have to go back to um, Skype, and I don't think Paul wants to do that.
No.
Okay, we'll jump into dry practice and go from there. I tell you, so I guess now, do you want to open the channel and check if we have any comments on? I'll
Do you
tell
want
you what.
YouTube?
I'll look on YouTube if you'll look on Skype or on the live channel.
Sure. No comments.
Okay, I'm going to close that window and we'll open it again after we go through the news. Okay, let's 5 seconds and we'll come back with personal news. Hi, and welcome back. This is our personal news segment of the Polite Society podcast. It's a thin crew here today. Paul's earning a living out on the road driving a truck. Rachel's taking care of some family and friend issues. It's just John and I. All I have to report is some dry practice and a small joke that I was going to play on Rachel if she were here. I think we may play it anyway. John, did you see where... John, are you back with us?
Just a second. I'm back. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
You want to get something to drink and come back? I'm worried about my co-host.
How do I how do I sound? Oh, my voice is raspy. Sorry.
Like you just got throat punched.
Yeah. Stuff drips down the back of my throat and it just closes up sometimes.
You want to get a drink of water and come back?
Yeah, I just got a drink. Hold on a second.
Well, this is exciting radio. Thank you for your patience. We've had bandwidth problems, we've had lag problems, and now we have throat problems.
Ooh, that's bad. I'm back, Rob. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oh.
Well, let's do the news introduction again.
Yeah.
5 seconds. Hi, and welcome back to the personal news segment of the Polite Society podcast. You know, other than dry practice, I haven't done much. It's also a pretty small crew here this episode. There's John and I. Paul's earning a living. Gary Daughtry didn't join us. Gary Harpster has, I think, chosen not to join us on Wednesdays. And Rachel's taking care of some home and family issues. John, I'm glad you're here. I'd be here alone.
It'd be lonely.
If I yeah.
Well, I actually do have some gun-related news. I've arranged a visit thanks to Bob Owens of BearingArms.com with PTR Industries in Aner, South Carolina, which is 30 miles from the beach. PTR was one of the Connecticut firearms companies impacted by the draconian laws passed in Connecticut post-Newtown. And rather than try to operate in a state that didn't want them, they moved to South Carolina, where when they had their their ribbon cutting, the governor showed up and spoke. In other words, they were welcomed with open arms. So I'm going to get a tour of the plant this coming Wednesday, maybe get an interview.
Well, and that reminds me, this coming Wednesday, we won't be recording because you'll be traveling, I'll be traveling, Paul's on the road. That would have left it all for Rachel. So a week from now, we won't record a show. That means that 10 days from now on Saturday, we won't be releasing an episode. I did want to tease Rachel because she had some just wonderful news. I was listening to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, his Saturday gun show, and a caller called in, said he'd just taken a Appleseed shoot instruction course, and he said there was this great instructor. I had so much fun. If the instructors are like Rachel Malone, then Tom Gresham, you really should go. So Rachel got a shout out.
That's fantastic.
Shout out on national radio.
That is just fantastic, and she's well deserved. Absolutely well deserved.
Right? She's a great ambassador. You know, I did, when you were talking about Nikki Haley earlier, about a governor showing up to a ribbon cutting ceremony for a new company, just to contrast South Carolina with California, there was a local biotech firm that was going to do a ribbon cutting. Again, I wasn't sure whether this was when they were breaking ground or their official opening. They invited Governor Gray Davis at that time to come and attend, and he said, sure, you pay me $5,000, I'll show up.
You've got to be kidding me.
That's welcome to Chicago on the Pacific Ocean. After that, let's go.
And biotech is a great industry.
Yeah, but politicians are politicians. We have this advertisement with ABN, and we'll be right back with the news. John, did I cut you off?
No, that's all right. You had to pay $5,000
to get the governor to attend.
And I presume this was in San Diego County.
At the north end near Oceanside, yeah. So shall we? Well, we're just going to leapfrog here. Are there any of these that you want, or?
You start. I'll take the Ohio one.
Which is the Ohio? There's one you want, huh?
The Ohio State.
Well, John, we can
you
just
can talk about Colorado. I'll go to.
We don't have to label them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just leapfrog.
Okay, but I'm going to go. It's contagious. I want to go get a sip of water.
Okay.
Well, hi and welcome back. This is the new segment of the Polite Society I didn't write it down and I can't talk. Who am I? John, would you like to open the news?
Yes, I'll open the news segment and then you'll take the first one.
Okay.
In 5. Hi, and welcome back to the Polite Society Podcast news segment. In the news, Rob will have the first story from Colorado.
Now here's an open carry event in Colorado that really won hearts and minds. There were the usual cow horses, radio queens, fire engines, and political candidates waving to the crowd. The event was the God and Old Glory Parade in West Cliff, Colorado. Of course, we're talking about the 4th of July, Independence Day that just passed. By far the largest group of participants and the one that got some of the most enthusiastic response from the crowd were an estimated 250 advocates clad in red, white, and blue, marching openly with guns holstered on their hips or slung over their shoulders. They carried everything from old-fashioned flintlock rifles to semi-automatics, and some of the kids had fake plastic guns. The Royal Gorge Tea Party carried a sign that said, "Keep your guns in the right hands. Yours." I suspect there's a bit of a pushback from the people of West Cliff, Colorado, to point out that living out in the mountains the way they do, that they're not Boulder.
Or Denver.
Or
in Colorado,
yeah.
In Colorado, open carry of handguns is legal,
Huh.
unlike Texas, which is kind of...
I wish, yeah, too bad Rachel's not here to tease.
Oh, well. Well, our next story comes from Ohio. Two organizations, Students for Concealed Carry and Ohioans for Concealed Carry, have filed a lawsuit in state court. They have challenged the Ohio State University's authority to ban lawful possession of firearms. Currently, firearms are banned for students, faculty, and staff on university campuses. The concealed carry groups think that these university regulations infringe on a fundamental constitutional right to armed self-defense. The regulations also disarm students and staff to and from campus, leaving them vulnerable to violent crime on the commute in what is historically a high-crime area. While Ohio law permits a concealed handgun licensee to store a firearm in a motor vehicle on OSU campuses, a student could still face administrative sanctions from the university, including expulsion, due to the certain provisions in the Student Code of Conduct. Michael R. Moran, a Columbus attorney who represents the groups, points out that the expulsion from taxpayer-funded Ohio State for a firearms-related incident carries severe consequences for a law-abiding student, including an academic record blemish that, quote-unquote, can virtually guarantee the disciplined student may never earn an accredited degree, unquote.
You know, if I remember correctly, we had a similar article about a lawsuit brought in Florida to allow concealed carry holders to keep firearms in their cars on campus. You remember that, John?
I do remember it. I think it's a number of lawsuits brought by Florida Carry challenging local community colleges, the state universities, from trying to forbid the concealed carry holders storing their firearms in their cars in violation of state law. Every time they settled.
Yeah. Oh, they settled rather than... Florida has a preemption law. I wonder if Ohio does. I'll have to talk to Buckeye Firearms. Here's another university-related news item. Boise State University in Idaho just attracted a lawsuit, and it seems pretty well deserved. The student group, Young Americans for Liberty, invited Dick Heller to speak on campus. Now, this is the Dick Heller that was the plaintiff in the Washington, D.C. lawsuit of Heller versus D.C. That's the case that returned some rights of armed self-defense to D.C. citizens. In the Boise case, only hours before Heller was to appear, the Boise State University administrators said the students needed to pay a $465 security fee. The excuse was that someone, somewhere, somehow claimed they would open carry at the event. This is technically called a heckler's veto, since anyone could claim that they might violate school policy, and therefore the university has a justification for ordering more campus security that the group then gets to pay for. In reality, this allows the university to impose a security fee on any student groups they don't like. The lawsuit is funded by the group FIRE, F-I-R-E, Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. John, where would your university fall on that spectrum?
Probably not charging a fee.
Ah, good for them.
But I will have to say that I'm very dismayed by for what should be an open and honest exchange of ideas on university campuses. They're not anymore. And the people who are really coming down hardest or interfering with it seems to be those who call themselves progressives.
At least we're not burning books in the street, although we did take them off Costco shelves for a little bit.
Well, yeah. Oh well. Well, leaving the universities behind, the laws to restrict the mentally insane from getting firearms don't work if the public and the courts don't follow through and apply them. The excuse for the surge in recent anti-gun laws is the murder at a Connecticut school a year and a half ago. Interestingly, Connecticut had laws in place since 1999 that allowed the mentally ill to be disarmed and to go to trial showing that they were or were not a danger to themselves and others. Like the gun laws that make it illegal for known criminals to have guns, these prohibitions are largely ineffective. The law is often abused by Connecticut police and by couples waging lawfare against one another.
Yeah, California is considering a similar law to disarm people based on mental grounds, and this is basically a phone-in charge. It's not clear yet what the standards of review and evidence are.
If any.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's an election year, and politicians, especially those of the more liberal stripe, are pandering for a press release and for Bloomberg campaign money.
Yeah, that's. I guess, is that ever out of season?
I don't know, and we haven't seen any Bloomberg ads here, but we're seeing tons of ads naming certain local Republican politicians for voting for fracking, but never naming the Democrats who voted for fracking.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're playing the green card.
The green card, but only against Republicans.
In Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next item, a rash of animal shootings by police officers nationwide has law enforcement agencies running for cover and hiding under the table. There's a growing public outrage that really could force state legislators to require greater accountability from our men and women in uniform. It turns out that no government agency keeps a national database on the number of pets killed by police. Turns out that animal rights activists have kept those statistics. They say a pet is murdered by law enforcement about every hour and a half. This is largely a result of officers having little to no training on how to deal with dogs. There is a book called Management of Aggressive Canines for Law Enforcement, and it's a pretty good starting point. You might give a copy to your local police if they lack such training.
Most officers are under control, and it's the out-of-control officers who hide behind the deep pockets of the city's lawyers and behind their union work rules. If I were to make a suggestion, perhaps the Postal Service, the U.S. Postal Service, and their letter carriers could give some training, shall we say, to law enforcement, because they deal with dogs on a daily basis. They don't carry guns, yet they seem to survive.
Somehow the mail
And the
goes through.
dogs survive.
I've never thought of that, obviously. In fact, they're experts, right? Them and the meter reader that comes door to door.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Atlanta, Georgia deserves a shout out for a special kind of dumb. Last year, concealed carry holders could enter city government buildings. After the Georgia legislature passed laws allowing carry in bars and restaurants, the Atlanta mayor banned private citizens from carrying in city buildings, though they were allowed a year previous. Mayor Kasim Reed needs to lose a lawsuit. It is amazing that the mayor did nothing to keep armed criminals out of City Hall, but now he wants to ban citizens who have not only been fingerprinted, but have had a background check.
You know, at some point, we want to help the mentally ill, but we shouldn't elect them to office. It's not good for the rest of us.
I would agree.
Speaking of electing the mentally ill, government policies really do matter. 41 people were shot in New York City over this last week, which included Independence Day. Chicago beat that record by a wide margin. It recorded 104 gunshot victims during that same week. By the way, and you wouldn't read this in the papers, none of the shootings were by licensed gun owners committing a crime. Not one in either city. The fact that there is high crime in these gun control paradise cities is simply lost and ignored on these politicians. The top cop in Chicago blamed the violence on lax gun laws. You and I think you can't fix a failed society with prohibition of a piece of metal. On the other hand, blaming the piece of metal makes a pretty good sunscreen for, smoke screen, camouflage for corrupt politicians.
Well, you certainly don't achieve peace by disarming the good, honest people.
Amen.
And I think
to that.
Otis McDonald fought for that.
Yep. I miss him.
And he was a good man. Well, here's more news from Chicago. You need lawyers and money to have a chance at a concealed carry permit in Illinois. There are now almost 200 lawsuits pending against the Illinois State Police and the State Special Review Board, which grants or denies concealed carry permits. One such example is Michael Thomas. Mr. Thomas is a former Air Force reservist who routinely carried a firearm in the military. Now living in Chicago, he took the required firearms training course, paid a whole bunch of fees, submitted his fingerprints for a background check to buy a firearm. This is why he is puzzled why the Illinois Special Review Board denied his application for a concealed carry license. Mr. Thomas never had a run-in with the law. He said, quote unquote, "I have never been arrested or convicted of any offense, either misdemeanor or felony, in the state of Illinois or any other state. I have no criminal record of any type." He feared a case of identity theft and asked the state police for a rehearing. They refused to say why he was denied and told him the Special Reviews Board's decisions couldn't be reviewed. Instead, he would have to petition a court for an appeal. There are approximately 800 people like Mr. Thomas who have been denied licenses by the board, a quasi-judicial board which meets behind closed doors and keeps its records and reasoning secret, even from applicants who are denied. The Illinois law contains contradictory language that leaves the appeals process open to political interpretation. It states that in the event of a denial, state police, quote, "must notify the applicant stating the grounds for the denial." But it also says that, quote unquote, "all board decisions and voting records shall be kept confidential, and all materials considered by the board shall be exempt from inspection except upon an order of a court.
Put not your faith in Illinois politicians.
It just looks like it's even more money that's going to be paid out by the state of Illinois and or Chicago.
Boy, I hope. I hope there's some substantial fines this time. And since you want to stay out of Chicago, I think you need to stay out of New Jersey too. It looks like we have another innocent citizen railroaded by the New Jersey anti-gun laws. Shaneen Allen from Philadelphia was arrested for traveling through New Jersey while possessing legal ammunition. Yes, ammunition legal in both Philadelphia and in New Jersey. But, and unfortunately as usual, the law enforcement officers said a judge could sort it all out. That puts Mrs. Allen at risk of paying for a trial, and also at risk of a possible felony conviction if the judge is as dishonest as they have been in the past. Evan Nappen is defending her, but that doesn't mean she'll receive a fair trial with a fair judge in front of an impartial jury. We'll keep you up to date.
Was she charged with driving while black with a firearm as an aggravating circumstance?
You know, that could well be. That could well be. I didn't notice what city in which she was arrested.
I think she was on her way to like Atlantic City or something, so South Jersey. And what I read about it is that if she's convicted, it's a mandatory 3-year sentence.
Yeah, she's a mom too. She's got her legal permit. And what was the reason for the traffic stop? Do you know? Did you see that part?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. But I know that the district attorney is, even though some court officers wanted to settle and put her in essentially what we would call a prayer for judgment continued, a delayed prosecution. Oh no, this local district attorney is going full bore after her.
John, I've turned down job offers in New Jersey, and this is why. I won't. They don't have enough money. You want to take the first gun quote?
I'd be glad to. The first gun quote comes from Thomas Jefferson in a letter to Littleton Waller Tazewell in 1805. He says, "Convinced that the people are the only safe depositories of their own liberty, and that they are not safe unless enlightened to a certain degree, I have looked on our present state of liberty as a short-lived possession unless the mass of the people could be informed to a certain degree."
Thomas Jefferson saying the duty lies with us. Well, there's a similar quote that continues in the same vein, also by TJ. "Whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. Whenever things get so far wrong as to attract their notice, they may be relied upon to set them to rights." Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back after this advertisement from Concealment Solutions. So then we'll do the interview with Russ, and let's summarize the red light, green light. Are you lagged, John?
No.
Oh, okay.
When you say summarized, when we come back in for the DGUs?
Yeah. Let's do the summary.
Okay. So are you bringing us back, or am I going to bring us back?
I'll bring us back and then hand you the first DGU.
Okay. That works.
Five seconds. Hi, and welcome back. As I've mentioned, I've known Russ for a couple years, and really, to me, the heart of his green stripe proposal, or I think he calls it sometimes green light, red light, is that if people say they, and you can't see the air quotes down the podcast, say they want universal background checks, they lie. What most of them want is to register particular gun owners. And Russell's comment is, why? If you want to make universal background checks, really, let's make them for everybody. I mean, nobody says, oh, we're going to do a rent-a-car background check or a car buying background check. You got a driver's license, you got a credit card, you're pre-qualified for both. Go rent a car, go buy a car. So he's saying, yeah, okay, let's really make it universal. And then suddenly, when some of the advocates aren't as interested, I think it tips their hand that they really were interested in registration rather than background checks at all.
Yep.
Well, John, you have the first DGU?
I do. And I'm going to wait till the end of the DGU to tell you where it happened because you absolutely won't believe it. A military service member with an Illinois concealed carry permit was leaving a party with 3 friends when they noticed a cup of liquor on their car that somebody had left there from a party next door. When they took this cup off the car, some party goer saw it and got upset, went inside the house, retrieved a firearm, and came out shooting. The CCW holder got behind the fender of the car and shot Denzel Mikiel, 22, twice in the arm and back. The 4 victims then left the immediate scene as others started shooting at them. The shooter, Denzel Mikiel, remained hospitalized on Sunday, but has been charged with attempted murder and will be held on a $950,000 bond. Oh, and by the way, the city was Chicago.
Well, God bless concealed carriers, particularly in Chicago.
Absolutely.
A little farther south, the owners of the Lexington, Kentucky jewelry and pawn shop were pretty suspicious when 3 young men walked into their store. It wasn't profiling. It was 90 degrees outside with high humidity, and the 3 were wearing hoodies with the hoods over their heads. Let's say the store owner was shocked but not surprised when one of the 3 pulled a hammer out of his jacket and smashed a display case holding expensive watches. The owner drew his pistol and ordered the 3 thieves to the ground. That's how the police found them when they arrived moments later. I don't know that I'd draw my gun to protect property, but this store owner protected his store and his staff. John, how would, you know,
if I were,
I don't know what I'd say about that.
I can't criticize I can't criticize them because plenty of people have been killed with a hammer.
There is that.
Along with feet and fists, but 3 against 1. I think you did right.
There you go. Right.
So, well, I don't think the criminals are going to obey the gun control laws. This one didn't. 53-year-old Steve Griffin threatened to kill a cashier at a Waffle House on Sunday. On Monday, he drew his gun and threatened a cashier at a Greenville, South Carolina Waffle House. Well, the clerk pulled her own gun, and he ran before she fired. Simpsonville police arrested him later that day. Simpsonville is just south of Greenville, by the way.
The guy's thinks he's going to hold up one cashier after another and finally pick the wrong one?
Sounds like it.
Here's another case of picking the wrong one. 4 armed home invaders broke into a home in Springfield, Missouri, very early this past Saturday morning. In the home were Rick Rogers, his girlfriend Chelsea St. John, and her daughter-in-law. When they realized the intruders were armed, Rogers rushed upstairs to get his firearm, followed by his girlfriend. That's when one of the home intruders, Kenneth Fry, 40 years old, grabbed Miss St. John by the hair and drug her back downstairs into the kitchen. He told her, "Get on the floor, you know, I'll kill you if you don't." Fry then went on to attack Mr. Rogers, whereupon Rogers shot first and killed Fry. The three other intruders rushed out of the house upon hearing the shot. Fast forward to Sunday afternoon when two men were walking past her house, and then Miss St. John looked at one of the men and realized he was one of the home intruders. She immediately called 911, and police ended up catching one of the two men. The other is still on the loose. The killing of Kenneth Fry, Mr. Rogers said, he had no regrets. "I would do it again. If they do it again, I would do it again. You've got to protect your family."
Absolutely. And, you know, it also goes to show that two things here. One, it helps to keep your firearm on your person, even when you're in your home. And number two, criminals will come back, especially if one of their own has been shot and or killed, trying to get retribution. So
we have examples of. Go ahead.
I was going to say they're lucky that they didn't come back shooting.
Wow. Wow. We have examples of some jewelers in the Los Angeles area that have been robbed 4 or 5 times.
Mm. Well, we have links to each of our defensive and gun use articles at politesocietypodcast.com if you want to share them with a friend. Coming up is our tips and tricks segment, along with an advertisement from New Jersey Second Amendment Society.
Okay, this first one was written to me. This is my buddy.
Okay, you are there.
I am there. And you get the second one.
From Julian, okay.
Then we'll just hopscotch.
Sounds good.
Leapfrog, sorry. Shall we check the, if you'll check live, I'll check YouTube.
Yeah, I'm pulling up live now. I have 2 people here now, but I don't have any messages.
Okay, none here either. Okay, let's come back. We'll have this wrapped up pretty quickly. Okay, 5 seconds and we'll start. Hi and welcome back. This is our email discussion section as we start to close out the show. A friend wrote me about Matt's rant. Now, Matt was a listener that just dropped by the ABN Surplus when we were recording, and Ian is commenting on it. As I say, this is from an email from listener Ian. I'm listening to your podcast with the listener's rant. You know, he's right. You're all right. Here's my understanding of the situation, and in as few words as I can use because I can ramble. Self-defense includes and is not exclusive to protection personally, or as a group of yourself, your family, your town, your city, your country. Any one of those can be a defense against tyranny, whether it's local or national. You guys cover personal DGUs regularly. But as another example of local tyranny is the 1946 Battle of Athens in Athens, Tennessee. Your listener's point is that the word tyranny rattles the average Joe's cage, and he's correct, because people believe that that kind of thing can only happen in other countries, and America, after all, is the home of the free and land of the brave. It would never happen here. This is a civilized country. Then people who have it in the back of their mind that it is a possibility and one day there might be tyrannical government that needs fighting again, well, those people are marginalized. And unless you are a smart and eloquent person that can talk to the apprehensive kind of audience, you simply won't get through without coming across as a conspiracy nut. So I concur. Leave out the word tyranny until you can make someone understand the more immediate issue of violent crime, and then work up to other issues from there with time. Also, bear in mind the Second Amendment was not drafted wholly based on tyranny, but, like much of the Constitution and the amendments, upon a deep understanding of history as a whole. That was the huge advantage of kickstarting the whole new nation without baggage. It's worth doing and reading. Oh, it's worth going and reading Lord Blackstone, an Englishman that had a heavy influence on the forming of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment isn't only one angle. It covers many issues, and we don't have to overwhelm people by zoning in on the nuclear option of tyranny. I'm slowly catching up with all the podcasts in my queue. The World Cup has put a dent in my listening schedule. Ian Wright at FastOC. Well, thanks, Ian. I'm glad. I appreciate your comments. I'd kind of, yeah, all right. It's a good point you bring up about Matt's rant.
It is a good point. So, the next email is from listener Julian, who says, "Congrats to Miss Rachel for getting a shout out on Tom Gresham's National Gun Talk show from one of our Appleseed students. Tom expressed an interest in learning more about Appleseed, and I thought it might be a chance for her to reach out to his show and get a little recognition for all her hard work and the PSP too."
Well, that would be nice. Well, I'd just like her to see her get some recognition.
It would be.
The Polite Society download app.
Absolutely.
The Polite Society download app is out on Amazon for Android, and the iPhone app is in iTunes, and it is called Podcast Box. They're located by our old name, Politics and Guns. Hot links are in the show notes.
Also, please check out Kathy Jackson's Cornered Cat training classes. Go to corneredcat.com for more classes and details. Rob, do you have any new posts from your SlowFax blog you want to mention?
I've got one coming out. It'll come out, it's not out now, but by the time this show airs, it will be out, and it's really about the huge advantage that the everyday gun owner has over, I'll call them special interests, like Michael Bloomberg. I point out how the gun grabbers have really lied to us in the news over and over. And there's some evidence that says, you know, the man on the street doesn't believe them, and the reason is his neighbor. His neighbor who's a gun owner. His neighbor who's known as a good guy, an honest guy, a guy who's fun to be around. Bloomberg comes up and says, gun owners want to intimidate everybody. They use machine guns. They kill children. And the man on the street looks at his gun-owning neighbor and says, not the neighbors I know.
Very good. I'm looking forward to reading it. Well, look at The Shooters Club by Bob Mayne and Ben Branham. For $75 a year, $625 a month, you get 24/7 access to some fantastic training and audio podcasts that you can't get anywhere else. Subscribing from the link in our show notes helps Bob and Ben, as well as helps us here at the Polite Society Podcast.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Polite Society Podcast. Until the weekend show,
stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road. We would like to thank our advertisers, ABM Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, the New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and the Firearms Safety Institute. We couldn't do it without them.
I want to go to see if anybody is on YouTube. And we'll pick up their notes.
I have nothing from...
Nope, nobody here either.
Walk Alive.
Okay.
Alrighty.
John, let me turn off the live broadcast.